What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA show. And first and foremost, just want to say sorry we didn't have a show yesterday. Things were a little crazy. I was in Vegas heading back to LA, but now I'm back and we are ready to go. Finally, the day is here where we get to talk about UFC 308, which in my opinion was my favorite UFC event, I think, of the entire year, namely because of one, Khamzat Chimaev. We were going to have Jesse on Fire on today, but he had a scheduling conflict because I really want to get his take. He did say, just FYI, that his favorite fight was not the Khamzat fight. It was Ilia versus Max. Obviously, another fantastic fight. But for me, there's no question it was the co-main event. Stole the show. It was absolutely incredible. But anyways, Justin, how you doing? How you recovering after? And notice, by the way, I wore my UFC jersey because I'm so hyped. Wait, but how are you feeling after we had a really fun weekend in Vegas?
Oh, I'm recovering, man. I'm going to sleep after this is over. Got a couple days of recovery behind me.
Right. Of course. Yeah, no, we had a really fun weekend. It was kind of a pre-Halloween, big Halloween party we went to, so it was a lot of fun. All right, let's get right in the mix. Now, the fights were on in the middle of the day, which I think me and even Justin, we realized that late in the game, but we still caught this amazing main event. Now, I know some people have already gotten online, and me and Justin had differing views about what would happen in this fight. Justin, I want to turn over to you first. Obviously, it didn't go the way that you predicted. However, I thought it was going to go the way that you predicted after the first and second round. I couldn't believe how well Max was doing. I don't know what the judges scored rounds 1 and 2, but I would imagine Max won both of those, or at least one of those. So it was a very, very, very interesting fight. And I actually started to think that Max was going to pull it off until everything kind of went wrong for him. But what was your take on the fight in those first couple rounds?
Yeah, I mean, dude, Ilia's awesome. Max is awesome. I had it going 1-1 going into the third. But Ilia really stepped up and showed he's a dog and showed he's tough. And contrary to my prediction, obviously he got knocked out. But dude, the guy's tough. He got in there against one of the best in the world, if not arguably one of the best featherweights of all time. He knocked him on the third round. I saw a crazy statistic like Max Holloway's had like over 2,100 punches thrown at him before he was knocked out for the first time. So, I mean, that's a pretty incredible feat. I think we got to start calling Ilia Topuria the legend killer because knocking Volkanovski out, now knocking Max Holloway out. The sky's the limit for this kid, and I'm expecting big things.
It was a beautiful performance. I did think Max did a tremendous job, and I think Max maybe was tougher than Ilia expected. Maybe not. Maybe he was just as tough as he did expect. But I really like that Ilia did mix in the grappling, which I did talk about, when I talked about in my breakdown video about his grappling base and how he is a tremendous grappler, and he used it, and that was phenomenal. I thought it was incredible that he used it early on, I believe in round 1 for a terrific takedown, just to let Max know this is a possibility. This is in the toolkit. This is in the wheelhouse. You got to watch for the takedowns as well as the striking. And I think I'm sure that was all intentional. What did you think of his ground game, of Ilia's ground game?
I mean, he took Holloway down twice, man. Again, I talked about it in my video, 84% takedown percentage, man. And just to go in there and take him down twice in one round, I thought that was pretty incredible. Again, to add to what you're saying, contrary to what I said, this is the new version of the MMA fighter, the total skill set. He can strike, he can grapple, he can wrestle. Wherever the fight goes, Ilia Topuria is going to be ready for it.
Now, one of the things I noticed with Max Holloway's game, which I thought was, again, really smart, and I don't even know if either of us talked about it or theorized about this strategy, but he threw a lot of kicks, and I think that was especially smart because he definitely had, I mean, he looked so much bigger than Topuria. It was actually wild because he's 5'11" versus 5'7". Ilia might even be 5'6". So he had a big, and I know Max doesn't have a tremendous reach. I think he's got kind of shorter arms for how tall he is, but the legs, he's got that massive reach advantage in the legs. So he was mixing it up with a lot of kicks, which I thought was amazing. Topuria, on the other hand, threw almost the only kicks he threw, correct me if I'm wrong, the only kicks he threw were calf kicks. So he was throwing calf kicks. He was weakening the lead leg and then just doing a lot of boxing mixed in with takedowns. Were you expecting that from Ilia?
I really didn't know what to expect. He talked about coming out, firing on all cylinders, pointing to the ground, and making it a slugfest. That's what I didn't expect. I expected him to more mix in the wrestling more, and he did in the first round. First round kind of went as expected. I didn't expect him to take him down twice, of course, because again, his takedown percentage. But going to a lead calf kick, especially against a boxer like like Holloway, I think it's a great take away his foundation, take away his footwork, really start wearing on him in the later rounds.
Yeah, and I think it worked, and I think it worked out just like that. It was pretty incredible, and Max fought an amazing fight. It did look like he was bummed out. I gotta ask, what do you? I've heard a lot of people speculate on what they think Max should do next. Obviously, it's up to Max. If you were in his shoes or on his team, what do you think would be the best play for Max going forward?
Man, I think it'd be cool if we talked about it before, doing that BMF tournament. I think Max Holloway still regular, win or lose, he's still a bad motherfucker, and I think he'd still be an incredible person to fight in that BMF tournament.
All right, I think that could be cool. I know a lot of people are saying, hey, maybe it's time he moves up to 155. I think that makes a lot of sense too. I don't know how tough the weight cut was for him. He looked incredible, but why not move up to 155, see what he can do? I think there's a lot of fun fights and fun matchups at 155. I also think it might be difficult for him to potentially get another title shot. Maybe not, though. Who knows? Diego Lopez gets the belt, something like that from Ilia, which I don't think is very likely, though, just because Ilia is so supremely amazing. But let's say that were to happen, perhaps. But why not? Max looked amazing at 155. He beat Justin Gaethje, one of the top five, top three fighters in the UFC in the lightweight division. Why not? Why doesn't he go back up? I don't know. That's my thought. Do you agree? Do you think that would be exciting?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually thought he looked healthier at 155. I think he looked better at 155 in his last fight than he did this one. Looked like he had a really hard weight cut. His cheeks were sunk in, before the weigh-ins.
Yes.
Telltale sign of dehydration, obviously. I think he looked great at 155. I wouldn't mind seeing, especially he's getting older in age. Those weight cuts get tough. They weigh on you more, man. And go back up to 155 and see what he can do.
All right, now let's talk about Ilia Topuria. What a phenomenal victory. You said the Legends killer. I agree. And it was just really impressive the way he put him down, knocked him out, first ever to do that. He said he would do it. He did it. He said he would do it in the first round. Obviously, I'm sure that was a bit of hyperbole, but he got the job done. Incredible. I mean, people are saying, which I disagree with, because I think he's going to be maybe the second biggest star in the UFC. We're going to talk about who I think is the true future of the UFC in a second. I think he's going to be an amazing fighter, incredible. What do you think? People are talking about him going up and facing Islam, that he would give Islam problems. I mean, there's so many things that Ilia could do going forward. He's still so young, only 27. What do you think would be cool for him to do next? Do you want to see him move up right away? Do you want to see him take on Diego Lopez? Do you want to see the rematch against Volkanovski? What gets you most excited?
The Islam matchup. After the fight, he said that hey, he wants to fight Islam and he can beat Islam at his own game. That is very, very interesting to me. I support Ilia trying to do great things, man. Going up, being the two-belt champ against the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world. I think that's an incredible call out. I think it's very, very dangerous, and I think it's ballsy. And I tell you what, I like when guys go out like that, or start making call outs like that. And if he can rise to the occasion of getting in there with the best Russian fighter that's in the world right now, the best fighter in the world right now, let alone Islam Makhachev, I think it'd be a pretty incredible feat.
For sure. So some of the pushback I've heard against that is they say, well, if Islam fights Ilia, now every time Islam's having a super fight, he's fighting somebody in a weight class below him. So I heard that as a reasonable counter argument. I do feel like think about if he did go up and fought Islam next, and again Diego has to wait, and it kind of holds up the division. He's only had two fights as one getting the belt and one title defense. Me personally, I would like to see him have one more defense. I know Dana White said at the presser, if Alexander Volkanovski wants this rematch, we got to give it to him because he's just been such an amazing fighter for the UFC. He's taken every fight and just been a tremendous, he's just been an asset to the company. So if he wants it, they want to give it to him. I get that. And I think that loyalty is amazing. But for me as a fan, I don't know. I want to see new matchups. It's more fun. And why not let Alexander Volkanovski maybe fight somebody else in the meantime? Let him get maybe not a total, whatever. What do they call it?
A can.
Yeah, something like not like a total can or something but just something in between, maybe not such a knockout artist, and then rematch Ilia down the line. I think that'd be cool. Let him get a victory. But I would love to see a fresh matchup maybe in between and then move on. And Diego Lopez is red hot, so that I think that would be a lot of fun. And then maybe he can move up and have a super fight. But congratulations to Ilia Topuria. Everybody is talking about how he might actually be the fighter of the year as opposed to Alex Pereira. Real quick before we move on to what I really, really want to talk about, if you had to pick between Ilia and Alex Pereira for the fighter of the year, and I know my answer, who would you choose?
I like Ilya, or excuse me, I like Alex Pereira, but Ilya, I mean, has a great argument just because he's knocked out two of the greatest featherweights of all time back to back. I mean, that's just incredible. But I'm gonna go Alex just because I don't know why actually. Like, it's not that I don't like Ilya, I just like Alex better, I guess.
I mean, he had 3 fights as opposed to 2. Yeah, you could argue that. I think Alex as well. Plus, think about just what Alex has done. Saved UFC 300, saved UFC 303, I believe it was, and then came out in this fight and had one of the most beautiful performances ever. I would say that was my I don't know. It's tough to say. I said when I saw that fight that that was the coolest, most exciting fight of all time. Probably was objectively, I think. Also you have to take into account that I am a big Alex fan, but now I think for me personally, I'd have to say this co-main from 308. So without further ado, let's move on. There's a lot of stuff we want to talk about here. So Khamzat Chimaev is the real deal. It's done. It's happened. All the speculation about is he as good as he is he really an X-Man? Is he really superhuman? I think those were answered yesterday. Some people were saying, MMA Joey in particular, that he thought he was going to buzzsaw through Robert Whittaker, but barely anybody was saying that. And more importantly, most professional fighters and UFC fighters were picking Robert Whittaker. I mean, it's insane. If you look back, it was like 30 on James Lynch's channel. It was like 37-6. People picking Robert Whittaker overwhelmingly. Now, the odds makers apparently had it right. Maybe not even correct. Maybe the odds should have been more in favor of Khamzat. Oh, I do want to say, I had so much faith in Khamzat. I put $500 on Khamzat and I won. You know, the odds were in his favor, so he was favored to win. So I only won like $270, and I normally never bet, but I wanted to do it as a show of faith for my favorite fighter, and he got the job done. Okay, before I go on my rant, Justin, what's your thoughts? I know you did pick Robert Whittaker, as did a lot of people, but now after seeing what happened, seeing the breaking of the jaw, which I don't think has ever happened in the history of the UFC, maybe it has, but very infrequently. What are your takeaways?
Man, I mean, he's the real deal, man. Get in there and do that to Robert Whittaker. You know, I go 0 for 2 on my two big picks of the night, and unfortunately, that's just the way MMA goes sometimes, man. Rob looked ready. Rob looked ready to go, but he wasn't ready for Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat went in there, did exactly what he wanted to do, had his way with Rob, and broke his teeth in his jaw, man. It was brutal, and I'm really looking forward to see what's up for Khamzat next. I was thoroughly impressed between Ilia and Rob, or excuse me, Khamzat. And I'm really looking to see what's next for this kid. Sean has already come out, said he's next in line. Khamzat has to sit in the back pedal in the back seat, but I don't know, man. That was a good enough performance to excuse me, shoot yourself up there for a title shot.
Okay, so I've got a lot that I want to unpack there. Before we jump into what's next for Khamzat and all that, I wanted to get your expert opinion on the scrambles. First of all, on the first shot, which I've seen a bunch of times. I saw Mighty Mouse this morning do an amazing breakdown of that initial shot, in the distance he was away, the quickness of the level change, and how Robert Whittaker, he anticipated the shot. He backed up. And I think if it was anybody else, he wouldn't have gotten that takedown, because Robert Whittaker was on top of it, jumped back, his sprawl was amazing, but like he just barely caught his foot, then got on top of him, immediately got his back. Robert Whittaker did an incredible job. A lot of people have said he did a phenomenal job in the scrambles, getting and almost got away, but he just couldn't, because I think Khamzat's too fast and too quick and too strong. What was your takeaway from the scrambles that you saw between Khamzat and Whittaker?
I mean, in MMA in general, not even just scrambles, it's a game of inches, man. And Khamzat just was always 1 inch in front of Robert. A couple of times I thought he was going to be able to escape, maybe with a wiggle free. And Khamzat said, no, not today. I took you down and I'm going to hold you down. And that's exactly what he did.
Is there anybody in the division that you think, yeah, what do you think? Does anybody have a chance, a better than 50% chance of beating Khamzat?
Man, I mean, we can't go off one performance. You know, it was an incredible performance, and I'm not going to take it away. But again, I mean, you're fighting at the top of the division. Everybody has a chance. There's nobody that doesn't have a chance. I mean, Gilbert Burns, he definitely had a chance as well, and that was down in weight class. So, Hamzat's going to keep getting better. You know, I keep waiting to see. I can't wait to see what's next for this guy. I think I mean, Sean has a chance. I mean, I'm not saying it's a great chance or anything. I don't want to count anybody out because again, it's fighting, and anything can go in a fight. Whether it's against Khamzat, whether it's against Ilia, But right now, I think Hamzat's red hot. He's going to be glowing with confidence, and it's going to be really hard to beat him. But there are guys that can beat him.
Okay. So I'm going to tell you my thoughts, and obviously, whatever you could call it, biased or whatnot, as I have mentioned many times on the show and in many videos, that he is my favorite fighter. But he's my favorite fighter for a reason. It's because I believed in him from the get-go. Just from what I've seen, I love his mentality. I love his work ethic. Everybody talks about how he's the last guy in the gym. They have to almost kick him out. And that's tremendous to me. And I think now he's putting everything together. He's being smarter about training. And it's just this amazing synergy of just rock solid mentality, amazing physical gifts combined with the proper supervision and tutelage and all these things that now is just making him into, it's kind of like, he reminds me of Wolverine from the X-Men. It's like just something that is, they're putting together all the pieces into this like super soldier, this super fighter. And now he's here. Everybody I've been listening to is just like, Khamzat, Lorosenko. Khamzat is a major problem in this division. She doesn't think anybody can solve it. Mighty Mouse, all these guys. Darren Till yesterday on Ariel Helwani's show said when it comes to, and he knows Khamzat, he's trained with them. Granted, they're boys, and maybe you could say he's biased. He says Khamzat will 100 million% be champion at one point in the UFC. And I think now it's inevitable. And now we got to see what goes down next. I'm going to talk about what I think should be next for Khamzat. You can probably predict. But before we do that, I haven't checked the rankings yet. Have you checked the UFC rankings? I thought we could do it live for fun. Okay, so I haven't checked. Let's do it right now. I want to see where they place them because I think that will tell some interesting stories about maybe what's next. So let's look right now. I have been looking forward to this all weekend. Okay, where is middleweight? Oh, he bumped up to okay. I thought he was going to bump up higher, actually. He bumped up to 3. All right, so fair enough. They still kept Sean at number 1. Okay, so I wonder if that does mean that maybe, well, I don't know, but the UFC doesn't handle the rankings. That's a collection of other organizations and reporters. So I don't know, but this is what I'm going to say. So today, I'm feeling so excited about the UFC and what's to come in the future of the UFC. I made a purchase today of I already own TKO stock as well as Endeavor stock. So I basically doubled down. I doubled my stock holdings in TKO because I believe in this company so much. And Khamzat, I think, is a big part of that. Now, who catapulted the UFC to its current valuation, right? When they were sold, it was Conor McGregor. It was one fighter. And we see the power and potential of an individual fighter that can really galvanize things and catapult the sport to a new level. And while Ilia is amazing, I don't think it's him that's going to do that. I think it's Khamzat. And I thought it was Khamzat from the beginning. And we all thought that for whatever reason, because of the infrequency in which that he fights. I think he lost some steam. I think he's gotten it back full force. People loved it. He's so exciting. He's so athletically gifted. His potential is unlimited. And he could be the first triple champ, which I said I think like 6 months ago when I made a video about him before. So I'm excited. And as a shareholder in the company, what I think makes the most sense, okay, for the future of the company, as well as from an equity standpoint, I think you got to get Khamzat in there right away. Let's schedule I know some people are saying, hey, let's let Sean and DDP fight first, and then Khamzat takes the winner. Khamzat's got a title shot one way or the other, but let Sean fight him first, and then let's slide Khamzat in there. I disagree. Khamzat is hot right now. Let's get him in there against DDP. Sean doesn't want the fight in South Africa. Let's do this fight in South Africa. Let's make history. Khamzat wants to do it. Let's see what they can do. I think Khamzat will definitely win. But if he doesn't, fine. Dricus is the man. He stops the boogeyman. Incredible. And then let's let Sean get in there and fight the winner of those two. And then if they don't do the fight, or if Khamzat comes away victorious, they do the fight somewhere else. Maybe if the visa issues get resolved, then Sean can fight him in the US, maybe in Abu Dhabi, something like that. What are your thoughts?
Man, I think either way it goes, whether he gets a title shot right away or secondary, I'm excited for Khamzat. Yeah, absolutely. I could also see, them going through 1 and 2 versus champion and 1, then 2 and 3 and 3 and 4. You have Adesanya, who's right in front of Khamzat. I mean, that's a great matchup too. And then the winner of DDP and Strickland get the winner of Khamzat and Adesanya. Considering that Adesanya was such a great champion for such a long time, Dana White might give him that. But we'll see going forward. I like both ways, man. I think it's a great move to get him in there for a title shot right away, especially after this big win. He's like you said, he's red hot right now. I'd be totally fine with that. I'd be bummed for Sean, obviously, because he's my teammate. But Adesanya's there too, man. And like I said, Adesanya's still ranked above him. I would love to see that matchup as well.
Okay, let's take one more look. I want to look at by the way, Robert Whitaker's posted a lot. It does sound like he's doing much better. I think he's already undergone surgery. And what I've heard is they repositioned the jaw. The fracture happened here that caused his teeth to push back. They repositioned it. And I heard a doctor say they probably going to put a plate under here to get it secure. So he is, from what I've heard and from what he's posted and whatnot, he's going to be just fine. But really quick, I just want to look at Robert Whitaker's record. So if you do notice look at his record. The times he has lost, the last time he lost from a TKO was back in 2014 in round 1. Okay, or not from a TKO, but in round 1. The last time he lost was 2014, 10 years ago. And he's got tons and tons of wins, right? He lost to Izzy in round 2. Okay, whatever. That was from a flurry of punches. Drickus in round 2 as well. Round 1, Khamzat Chimaev, 3 minutes. And how many significant strikes landed from Robert Whitaker? 2, I believe. 2 kicks. Low leg kick and something else. And then Khamzat took over. I mean, it was just a blowout. So I think, God, dude, who's done that? I just think there's no argument to be made. He's got to go next, and I'm ready for it. So, guys, you're hearing it. My prediction here, I do believe Khamzat will be the future of this company. I think he can do things that nobody else can do. I think he can be a triple champ, as I mentioned in my video 4 or 5 months ago. Let's go. It could be middleweight, welterweight, and light heavyweight. I think he could do middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight. Or he could be all 4. I don't know. I think we haven't seen anything like this. It's tremendous. And yeah, I can't wait. So, best fight of the year. Unbelievable. All right. Let's move it along to the next fight. Well, first of all, let's talk about Magomed Ankalaev and that victory. I know a lot of people thought the fight against Rakic was maybe a little underwhelming. I found it interesting. I liked it. But I think it's pretty undeniable that Magomed is going to face Alex Pereira next. Now, from what you saw, Justin, and Magomed's striking, and now I think people have to admit, people for some reason thought he was just a grappling machine. That's obviously not true. He didn't shoot for one takedown. He's primarily a striker. What do you foresee in this matchup, Magomed versus Pereira?
I mean, he's a great striker. He's very, very powerful, but he's not Alex Pereira, man. And I know he's going to go toe to toe with, the best striker in the UFC right now. And man, I mean, if he can't put Rakic away, I can't see him putting, Alex Pereira away anytime soon.
No way. I think I'm actually very excited for this matchup because people have been acting like Magomed Ankalaev is Alex Pereira's boogeyman, and he's going to just be such a problem, and the UFC is protecting him. I don't think that's the case. Plus, Alex Pereira is getting more time to work on takedown defense, anti-grappling, etc. So he's probably getting better and better as time goes on. Whenever they schedule this fight, maybe early next year, I think he's ready. I think he's going to pull it off, and it's going to be so satisfying. So I think this is a really, really great matchup. I'm actually glad in retrospect that Magomed Ankalaev won. I do like Rakic, and I was kind of rooting for him. But I think this is going to be a tremendous fight, especially because of all the nonsense that people have been saying about Magomed being a problem for Alex Pereira. So we'll see what happens. Magomed posted something. I think it was probably Ali Abdelaziz because I think that's his manager. And I heard he posts a lot of things for his fighters. But he posted something like he posted, what's it called? Izzy knocking out Alex Pereira. And he's like, if this skinny guy can knock you out, imagine what I'll do to you. But I mean, that's just nonsense. I think Alex Pereira is a totally different guy too in this heavier weight class. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So looking forward to that. Okay. Let's move on. I do want to spend some time at the end of the show talking about Francis Ngannou. There's a lot of crazy stuff that's going on. I want to talk about him, especially because he is your teammate. But before we get there, one last topic, Shara Bullet. I believe the first back-to-back
Double spinning back fist.
Yeah, spinning back fist knockout in the history of the UFC. Now, first, tell me, you were saying something to me about how it actually does happen in sparring quite a bit. Tell us a little bit more about that. Why is it that, even though we haven't really ever seen it in a professional fight, in an actual fight, it is kind of a natural thing to do. One spinning back fist followed up with another one.
Yeah, when you make great contact, especially on a block, you go for your spinning back fist. It's almost natural sometimes to bounce back and spin back the other way. It was an incredible strike. It was a very exciting. Obviously, it's never been landed, but it's something that we laugh about in the gym because it happens a lot in the gym where you hit the one back fist and it's like, oh, you just go back with the other one. But to do it in a fight is just it's legendary, man. Because again, it's one of those things that we kind of just laugh about and joke about. Oh, I hit you with the double spinning back fist. But again, reiterate, to go out in a real fight in the UFC, you're fighting some of the best fighters in the world, and to hit that, knock him out, wow, the guy deserves the bonus for sure.
What do you think's next for Shara Bullet? I've heard, and by the way, let me throw this out there too. This is, I think, what MMA Guru said. He said, "Hey, I want to see Shara Bullet go up against a grappler next, or somebody with a decent grappling background, because now he's had great victories and he's very, very exciting. But he just wants to see if he has what it takes to defend against takedowns and to show that part of his game. And if he can, how exciting will that be to watch him rise up? And he'll obviously have real potential and real capability in the upper echelons of the division. Is that what you want to see, or do you want to see him still go up against a striker just because it's exciting?"
I want to see him fight a no name. I think he's 3 or 4-0 in the UFC, and I've never heard of any of his opponents. So I'd like to see him fight a no name, fight a guy that's maybe been in the top 15 that isn't anymore. That we can be like, okay, fine. Now he's fighting a guy that has some credibility, man. Because I don't know, man. Fighting the fighters he's fighting are there, and they're great. They're in the UFC. They're all tough. But I get more excited when it's like, oh fuck, I know.
Whoop. I think we may have lost Justin, or was that my internet? Okay, hopefully you guys can still hear me. All right, Justin, I'm sure will pop back up in a second. Really quickly, I'm going to load up Shara Bullet's record. We're just going to take a look at some of the fighters. All right, there's Justin's going to pop back on. There he is. Okay, Justin, sorry, we lost you for a second. While you got lost, I was going to pull up Shara Bullet's record, because you mentioned, the guys that he's beaten, you didn't recognize any of them. So here we go. Bruno Silva. I think we do all recognize that name. That was back in 2023. That was his first fight in the UFC. These are the other 3 guys. So none of these guys you recognize? Antonio Trocoli. I remember that fight. Smoked him.
No, I don't. And Bruno Silva, I've heard of his name before, but if you gave me a picture of him, I would be like, oh, that's Bruno Silva.
Yeah,
you're 4-0 in the UFC. You're getting a great start at your career. And be 4-0 in the UFC is pretty incredible. So give this guy no name. Give this guy that's been around. Give him an opportunity to show what he can do against an old vet.
All right, let's see it. I'm down for that, and will be a matter of time until we get that. Okay, now we're gonna go on to this crazy story between Dana White and Francis Ngannou. This is getting a little nuts. Now, Dana White basically was asked about Francis and has been talking about the victory and different things, and he finally came out. Well, maybe he's alluded to this before, but he talked he talked pretty negatively about Francis. Did you see this, by the way?
No.
Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick while I set the stage. But he pretty harshly trashed Francis Ngannou here. Let me see this. I'll find the clip, and then I want to show you some other things that Darren Till said, which I thought were really, really spot on. Okay, here we go. I found it. Right here. Let's see if I can get to the exact spot. Okay, here we go. All right.
It's weird that you asked me that question, because I just happen to have some papers here.
Oh, he's talking about the PFL here. Hold on.
Okay. And we haven't even had a...
Wait 1 second. Islam. Oh, no, this is not the clip. Hold on. Let's see if I can find it here. I think it might be this.
And what did you make of Francis's performance, given, everything that's happened to him in his career, the 2 losses in boxing, the loss of his son?
It was better than Don Davis's. Way better. Listen, man, I think that I'm going to tell you what I think about what Francis is all about the money. Francis left because he knew that if he fought John Jones and didn't win, it would hurt his chances of making the money that he wanted to make. But realistically, his deal was bigger here. His deal was bigger here if he stayed in the UFC. I think I've told this story a million times. They can deny it all they want. Why the fuck would I lie? What do I care? It doesn't matter to me one way or the other. I was going to cut Francis when he lost 2 in a row. I was going to cut him.
That was after the Derek Lewis
Yeah.
fight?
Somebody around here begged me not to do it. And, so it wouldn't have mattered to me one way or the other, There's a much deeper story to this whole thing. And he would have made more money if he stayed in the UFC. So He didn't want to fight John Jones. That's a fact, my friend. You know, we're moving on. Nobody wants to fight in the PFL except for Francis.
And another thing you mentioned at Power Slap the other night was stuff about Francis Ngannou, and that stirred up a lot of reaction from the MMA community and from Francis himself. And he had a very interesting quote. Can I read you a little bit?
Hold on, let me.
He said, he can't handle this loss, referring to you. I'm sure he's been praying for my downfall. Which money is he talking about?
Okay, so this is the part when Dana really goes in deep, and he makes it a personal thing right here. And then I want to show you what Darren Till said, which is right on point, which is what I've been saying. But let's watch this.
About the money that he owes me. They say we're going to give you back pay from the money we owe you from the Stipe and Surreal Gone fights. All that, they never paid me back. Now I've made more money than I would have ever made in the UFC. I would say twice the money in my entire UFC career.
Yeah. When have you ever heard a story in all the years we've been in business, even when it was upside down, where we owed somebody money? Never happened. So he's full of shit there. Then I lost. I didn't lose anything. I was done with Francis after the he owes me money because we had to watch that fight with him and the Black Beast. He should actually pay me back for that fight. And all of you. And me praying for it, trust me, I don't think about Francis that much. You guys asked me the question about the PFL, and I responded. Other than that, the only one who's praying for his demise is probably the PFL, because they signed a shitty contract with a guy that doesn't deliver any numbers and ticket sales or pay-per-views. So, and they got to keep paying this guy for however long, and good for him,
And
not good for them.
Yeah, and I know
What was the other question?
It was. I know you said like he's all about the money, but then you also said like he would have made more money to stay here.
And
So
that's
could
a
you just
fact.
clarify
He can play those games all he wants. He would have made more money here.
that? And just
Let
lastly,
me tell you what. There were two guys here. I wanted to cut them. Someday I'll tell you the story. Francis was like, I was all about Francis in the beginning. And then I found out who Francis was. And I told the two guys who asked me not to cut Francis, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And yeah, believe me, I have no sleepless nights over Francis leaving.
So just two more things on this.
Yep.
You wanted to cut him, but he went on to become the UFC heavyweight champion. So I guess what does that say about that thought process?
Yeah.
Does it show he should have stayed?
Well,
Or-
no, I didn't like Francis as a person. Wasn't a guy I wanted to do business with. My boys were telling me he's misunderstood. And I told them, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them.
All right, let's stop it right there. I know you train with France. It's a lot. It's a lot to unpack. But basically, it goes down this line of thinking of him saying he didn't want to fight John Jones. That's why he left. I just don't buy that. I don't know. And then it goes to this point where finally he unveils, I guess, this main reason of just a personal thing, that he doesn't like Francis and thinks he's a bad guy. Basically, you know, just really throwing some negative shots and some personal shots at Francis. I don't know. I want to get your reaction, first of all, to what he said about John Jones and all this other stuff.
I don't know. Just, you know, the reporter kind of hit it on the head there, and I could tell he didn't want to pry at Dana again, but Dana kind of contradicted himself. Oh, Francis is all about the money, but he would have made more money here, but he went there. That's very strange. And I've known Francis for a long time, and it's not like that we're buddies and we hang out outside the gym or anything. But I am buddies with Eric Nixick, and I've never heard a single guy in the gym, in an interview, in the UFC, in Bellator, in the PFL say one single bad word about this guy until Dana White did just right now. So, I mean, it sounds like there is a sensitive subject there for Dana, and then to contradict himself, oh, he's all about the money, but he chose a lesser deal. That doesn't make sense either. I think Dana's just tripping over his words here.
I agree. Okay, now I want to play Darren Till's interview yesterday on the Ariel Helwani show. This is spot on. This is exactly what I've been saying, and I can say this from a business perspective. Even if they have a personal beef, it's stupid that you can't let that drive a business, especially when you have shareholders, you have investors, you have parent companies. When something is this good for business and you're not doing it because of one personal beef, I just hate to say it, but it's not right. And also for the fans and for the sport, we want to see certain things. Why would you let this one stupid personal beef, like, it's insane, right? Well, this is a business. So anyways, Darren Till hits it on the head. This is what I've been saying, what I've been feeling. Why can't we get past this and just get over this when we know this is what the world wants? So let's check this out.
Just like, sorry to say, we don't want to see John Jones and Stipe. Stipe hasn't fought for 25 years. We want to see the best, greatest MMA fighter of all time versus John Jones. Versus Tom Aspinall. And then after that, we want to see everyone stop chatting shit and talking about my ego this, my ego that. As much as I love Dana White, there's one thing that pisses me off. Just make the fucking fight with Francis Ngannou. We don't care that you don't like Francis and Francis doesn't like you. Guess what? Wow, we don't care. No one's asked. Let's just watch John Jones versus Tom Aspinall, Francis Ngannou versus John Jones, and let them all fight, and then we'll say, right, he's the best right now. We don't care that, oh, he said something mean to me one time. We're not asked. Who cares? I don't care. Why do you care? UFC's always been the best because we give the best fight. Now, Tariq Al-Sheikh is coming along and making all the best fights in boxing that all these divvy promoters, because they all lie through the teeth, couldn't make. Tariq Al-Sheikh is now doing that. Now people are still chatting shit, but we're getting the best fight. We just want to see the best fight. I don't care that John Jones is on the cocaine a week before the fight. I couldn't give a rat's ass. I'll get on the cocaine with him to make us all happy. I want to see John Jones versus Tom Aspinall, Francis Ngannou versus John Jones, and then I can sit there as a fan like you, Ariel, and say, that's the best guy.
Yeah, that's all we want.
Do we agree?
Thank you. That's all I'm saying, right? That's what I said before. It's a shame that we're not. Why are we not seeing John Jones versus Francis Ngannou? Because of a personal beef. All this stuff has gone wrong. That's not what this is supposed to be about. It's not what the UFC is supposed to be about. Now, I would get it if Francis went out and had a bad relationship with everybody at the UFC, mistreated a bunch of people or something. It sounds like it's just one personal beef between two people. And this is maybe there's much more to the story. I don't know. But it seems like, why can't this be worked out? Why are you letting this major personal beef get in the way of business of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, again, with shareholders, with investors that have financial interest beyond just some stupid personal beef? So I 100% agree. And then I want to play one of the clip, and then I want to get your reaction from Francis himself saying, hey, he's open to a fight against John Jones if Turki Al-Sheikh can coordinate things.
Sorry for running.
And by the way, remember, I said this to a few weeks ago after Francis won. I'm like, what if Turki Al-Sheikh can bring these two together, can facilitate some sort of a fight? Maybe he can purchase some deal, or he's willing to buy Francis Ngannou. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. But
I don't even know who this guy is. Who's Turki Al-Sheikh?
What? Turki Al-Sheikh. He's the one making all the fights in Saudi. He's the one. He's got relationships with the UFC and the PFL and boxing promoters. He's now putting together all these super fights. Dude, he's changing the face of combat sports because they're just essentially using the vast resources that Saudi Arabia has financially to now start to put together all these super fights and make Saudi the new fight capital of the world. That's what they're trying to do right now. And they're able to do it because it's more of a passion project than a venture to make money. So they don't care that they're losing money in the short term. They don't care that they put he's the one that put on the Francis Ngannou fight versus Anthony Joshua. You know, whether or not they lose money, he's just trying to put together incredible events. So let's listen to what Francis said about this.
I see him too, and I will be watching him on November 16th.
That's the one, man. That's the one that everyone says, why not? They're both with ESPN. Maybe Turkey has a hand in it. Do you think there's any chance this happens in 2025?
There is a chance. Level of 1 to 10, I can't tell how many, but I know there is a chance. I know that fight also interests Turkey. Not many teams resisted him.
He's probably the one who can make it happen.
Yes.
Do you believe, Francis, that he actually is interested in this fight?
John?
Yeah.
I do believe. I know the truth. Been behind the scenes so many times, so I know exactly what happened. So I do believe that he wants that fight. I think he does.
That's it. That's what I wanted to end on. Okay, Justin, give me your thoughts. Do you think this is possible? Do you think this is ever going to
see
happen?
the matchup. I mean, if you got the money, anything's possible, man. Money makes things happen, man. If this Turki Al-Sheikh guy has that kind of money and he can buy John Jones out from Dana White, I'm sure it'd be a pretty penny. But what banner is he going to be under?
I don't think no.
Because
I don't
Dana
think
White's
it'll go
already
down like
discussed it.
I
Can't
don't
get
think he's going to be able to.
cross-promotion.
I don't think he's going to be able to buy John Jones out of the. I don't think the UFC would ever do that. In fact, I wouldn't want the UFC to do that. I would want it to happen under the UFC banner, which I think makes the most sense. The two best fighters in the world. Come on, it has to be under the UFC banner. But maybe Turki Al-Sheikh can buy him out of the PFL contracts. You know what I mean? Bring him, mend the bridges, mend the fences, get him back under the UFC banner so he can have some amazing super fights. Let him and. Maybe they can get him some amazing contract that will work in his favor and that will make everybody happy. Just get over all the nonsense. Get over the personal beef. Who cares? And it's exactly what I say. The sport has to move forward, and it can't be about one guy beefing with another guy in the organizations and then everything falling apart. Shouldn't be how a business operates, especially as I mentioned, when you have lots of financial interests across the board into all of this stuff. So anyways, he's Western Mass Climber says Dana won't do that. Maybe not, but there's a chance. Turki Al-Sheikh makes it possible. The possibility that there's a chance. And last thing I'll end on, if this fight were to happen, is it the biggest fight that can happen in the history of the UFC? Bigger than Conor and Khabib?
You got Conor and Jose Aldo. You got Conor and Khabib. I don't think it's the biggest fight. I mean, pound-wise, yeah, it's the biggest fight. You got two of the greatest heavyweights, but I mean, there's just so many. And that's the thing, like, these fights will lose their luster after time. When you had Randy Couture versus Chuck Liddell, that was the biggest fight of the time, of that time. Now, pay-per-view sells, man, can you top the ultimate pay-per-view seller, Conor McGregor? I don't know, man. That's going to be a tall task because as excited as everybody is for this fight, there's not going to be a lot of trash talk. And there's not going to be Conor McGregor trash talk because honestly, that's what brings the fans in, especially the casual fans or the non-fans. You know what I mean? Like, this is going to be a fight that you're going to want, your non-fighter friends to see to get them to like the sport. When Conor McGregor steps in the ring, that happens every time.
Fair. Okay, I do think there's a chance. It could be the biggest fight of all time. Two giants going against each other. Two of the arguably most skilled and amazing resumes in the heavyweight division of all time. And now they're finally battling. Plus the backstory. He's been out of the organization. Now he's coming back in. He had tremendous success against arguably the greatest heavyweight boxer of all time. Francis beats John Jones. He will go down as the greatest combat sports athlete of all time. Done. It will be that. So if they can get him under the UFC banner, we can have this fight. I think it could do it. So anyways, let's end on that. Let's make this stuff happen. Let's see if we can do it. Let's get Khamzat versus DDP. Let's get Francis back in the UFC somehow with Turki Al-Sheikh. Let's do it. And let's have the most incredible 2025 of all time in the history of combat sports and mixed martial arts. All right. That's it for today. Thank you guys so much for joining. Justin, go and recover and rest up.
One more day of recovery.
Yeah, and then we'll be back on Friday to unpack what's coming up next. But thank you guys for the support. Western Mass Climber, thank you again for joining us. As always, we appreciate the support in the comments. And let us know if you want to see anything else or if you have feedback or comments about the show. Yeah, you're very welcome, Western Mass Climber. And without anything else, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Take it easy.